opportunities at some point in the future to do this? Yes, I heard it, yes. All right, let's bring that together. We are making our way back to our seats because there is so much good stuff still coming. Did anyone meet anyone new? Did you meet someone new? Raise your hand if you met someone new. That is amazing. All right. Did anyone hear a struggle or a dream from someone else that you also care about? Did you find unexpected connections? You find something you're really passionate about? Is anybody going to do anything about it? Oh, come on, that is way too quiet. Do you want to do something about it? Yes! All right, that is why we are here today, because we want to act together to make them real. I'm going to turn it back over to our amazing co-chairs, and I'm going to try not to take their notes as I leave the stand.
Now I'd like to introduce Father John Korchmer, a long-time member of our national network, the Industrial Areas Foundation, who was also a priest in Austin, Texas for 30 years, and was a founding member of our sister organization, Central Texas Interfaith. We are so happy to have him here working with us now. Father John has been in some organization fights, and he's here to share a story of a nightmare he fought with us today.
Okay, thank you. I'm here to share with you, not fight with you. Clarify that. In Austin, Texas, a number of years ago, the elementary schools were asking the organization to help get the parents involved. Parental involvement was looked for in lots of places. In one of the schools that was in my parish, the teachers were saying, there are no parents. They don't come for conferences. They don't come for PTA or PTO. They don't even show up when we call them to take their sick kids home. They don't care. Well, we began doing individual meetings and house meetings with teachers and with parents, and we quickly learned from a lot of the parents that the reason why they didn't come is they were trapped. They were trapped in a nightmare, trapped in a jobs that were low wages, that had no future, had no opportunity. They couldn't go looking for other jobs because they needed the little income they were getting. They couldn't work at getting their education improved because they had to show up for all those hours. They were trapped. What could they do? One day, the schools called one of the parents and said, your child's sick. You need to take your child home. When she told her supervisor, I gotta go pick up my sick kid, the supervisor said, if you leave, don't come back. What would you have done in that situation? So one of the things we did was to start meeting with employers. We wanted to know if they had jobs that would pay a living wage to support a family, benefits, career path. Jobs they thought they'd have trouble filling. What kind of training did they need? And so we met with them. We met with the community college. We asked them to develop courses that would train many of our parents for those jobs. And so we met with the parents and the leaders in our parishes to build up the power, not just to have a dream, but to make it happen. Have house meetings, individual meetings, build a constituency, be able to have large meetings before the elections, asking the candidates for for a public commitment to our agenda. We don't endorse, we don't oppose, but we wanted people to vote with an education of what the situation was. By working together, we were able to build the power to make things happen. I invite you to work to build the power so that you can move from nightmares to dreams.
Wow, that was exciting. I wish one day I'll be able to do something like that. Don't you? Now I would like to introduce you to our organizer of Together West Michigan, Allison McCauley.
Power. In West Michigan, that word can make us clutch our pearls, or gasp, and uncomfortable and shifty, can't it? We are much more comfortable with words like nice and service, or best of all, love. One famous leader had something to say about love. He said, "Power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic." Does anyone know who said that? It was Dr. King. It was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And when we talk about power at Together West Michigan, we are talking about relational power. When many of us think of power, we think of top-down, command and control power over somebody else. In broad-based organizing, we call that unilateral power. And many of us have been on the receiving side of unilateral power that was damaging and destructive. And we think of that famous phrase, power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But we often don't hear its companion. Powerlessness tends to corrupt, and absolute powerlessness corrupts absolutely. Being on the receiving end of destructive unilateral power is what brought many of us to broad-based organizing. Relational power is different. It is win-win. It is not zero-sum. It is coming together across the lines that tend to divide in an ongoing relationship to learn what one another care about, the pressures your families face and my family faces, and if we might want to do something about it together, and then do it. That's right. It's not a one-time encounter, it's ongoing. Like what Father John just described. Like what we just did in this room a little bit ago. Like the meeting we had in this room 3 weeks ago with members of Holy Name of Jesus, Latinx congregation, and Anglo members of our mental health team for the first time, talking about mental health struggles they shared. Now, as with any relationship, that means finding our way through differences of opinion and tension. But that relational power, if I seek to know you and you seek to know me, and we seek to know each other's interests and commit to act together and be accountable to one another, produces the kind of power that got our Deputy Secretary of State to show up at our first public assembly and commit to translate driver's license tests into Swahili for the 8,000 people in the street. Commissioners of Mental Health. I got Chief Lindstrom of the Grand Rapids Police Department to publicly commit not to ask about immigration status on traffic stops or police encounters. That got ladies in our county's affordable housing loan fund about home ownership, not just rentals. It got us 1,400 support cards for childcare in 1 month and turned out 150 people at 8:30 a.m. on a Thursday morning in support of expanding childcare funding in this county. Relational power also means reciprocity. It means we're committed both ways to each other. So even if housing or childcare is not my top issue, I'm going to show up for you if it's yours. And you will show up for me when it's time, right? Now, at Together West Michigan, we are unabashedly about power. Thank you. That's like a great music for power. Okay. And we say that power comes in two forms. And the first one, I feel like I'm on the Oscars. The first one is organized people. And in Together West Michigan, our organized people are member institutions. Why do we have member institutions instead of individuals? Well, if one form of power is organized people, an institution is a group of already organized people, right? So rather than recruiting people one by one, an entire institution becomes a member. And those people have relationships with one another and some kind of trust and care for each other already. And they also are organized around a mission that allows us to identify a whole group of people who on some level share a purpose and start to look at each other's mission and imagine if we share values and could do work together. And the work of broad-based organizing can help institutions live out their mission in a more powerful way. And we need our community institutions, our faith communities, our neighborhood associations, our schools to live out their missions powerfully now more than ever.
Yeah.
Those institutions have been the core of our communities since this country started. When new immigrants arrived, a lot of times they arrived at parishes, at churches, at settlement houses where they connected to jobs and housing and community. Like Restoration Community Church, who is still doing that, right? Like Holy Name of Jesus Parish and San Juan Diego School, who are welcoming families all the time and wrapping their arms around them. Our schools are places of formation for children, but also help and connection for families. Teachers and staff like the ones here and at Everbloom Montessori, our newest member, and countless others are working overtime to support families and children. Am I right? Yes. Okay. We even talk about First Community AME's Allen Manger Senior Housing, Westminster and St. Mark's food programs, Oakdale Park supported New Americans, Messiah Missionary Baptist New Housing Development and Village, right? And many more. But our institutions are feeling the pressure too, aren't they? More needs in the community, more financial pressure, more struggles with polarization, and no institution can do it on their own. We can do much more and have much more power together. Amen. That's right. So, Together West Michigan has committed this year to build our membership with 6 new member institutions. With a special focus on Wyoming, Granville, and Kentwood. We are finding more and more people here who share our interests and concerns, like the 17 clergy who signed on just from Classis, Grand Rapids, or Granville of the Christian Reformed Church to their county commissioner's support letter to expand child care. And that was the one who crossed party lines to support. So we've gotten some really good work done, and if you want to cross the finish line on things like expanding child care funding in our county, or having a say in whether or not we want to pass a of lodging tax, for more downtown development, we have got to know and be working with more of our neighbors, and we have to have a bigger and broader base. Agreed? Agreed. So 6 new member institutions at least, and we're also proposing to get 5,500 people to pledge this year. How many?
5,500.
5,500 people to pledge this year to be child care voters. What does that mean? Well, that means that they will pledge to vote to renew the Ready by 5 millage on August 6th and pledge to hold our elected officials accountable for taking action to support affordable and quality child care. And on your way out, and actually you have a QR code for this on the back of your agenda, you'll find these pledge cards that say, I am a child care voter, and I will vote to renew the millage, and I will hold candidates accountable for taking action on child care this year. And then it has your information on the back. So we are going to recruit 5,500 child care voters this year, and we are planning a big accountability session for September to invite our county candidates and probably our state candidates to stand before you and answer what they plan to do publicly on child care and on all the issues that Together West Michigan is working on. Now, I know you're supposed to clap for that, but I just want you to think about this. Imagine if when we get 5,500 child care voter pledges, if only 10% of those people came to an accountability session, you would have a 550-person candidate accountability session for Together West Michigan. Kate Robinson, like that. That's what I'm saying. Do you think that would make an impact? I have never seen a 550-person candidate accountability session in this county since I moved here 7 years ago, or been part of one. I think that would be very, very fun. Now, those pledges, those 5,500 pledges start with the members of our own institutions. That's a big number, and it's big on purpose because we need to grow. So we start with our own institutions. Go to your members. Talk with the people you know and get them to pledge. Invite the people who you serve in your programs or ministries to pledge. Expand to the neighbors around your institution. This is a great way to get into conversation with people you don't know yet, because I haven't met a single person who isn't affected or doesn't know someone affected by affordable quality child care, especially since we're short 20,000 slots for children 0 to 3, or 0 to 5, right? That's a lot of slots. Reach out to the institutions you don't know yet, but you want to build relationships with, the school or the child care center or the church down the road you've always wanted to meet. Because when 150 people show up to a county commission meeting from across the county, everybody speaks in favor of expanding support. We're buried under studies saying that funding works, we need more of it, and 75% of people polled support expanding funding, but the county commission still will not let voters decide. It is definitely time to build more power. So we start with child care, but we also ask people as we talk with them, what else? Like you did earlier. What else is going on? What else might we do together? Now, this is the first year that we are focusing our relational power specifically with people as voters, so let me clarify. We are non-partisan. We will never support or oppose candidates. Our candidates are our issues. We will, however, hold candidates and elected officials accountable for what they do on our issues. Okay? And even though our engagement should be relational, we want to engage people around our shared interests and invite them into ongoing relationship. They are people, not just numbers. Okay? So the first form of power we talked about in broad-based organizing is organized people. And for us, that means 6 more member institutions, 5,500 child care voter pledges. And we're also going to offer a training to help you learn how to do all of this stuff in April that we want to make sure 50 people get to help you build your work. We'll talk more about that later. But there's a second form of power. Together West Michigan, besides organized people, what's the other one? Organized money! That's right. Organized money. Folks who live in Kent County tend to be very clear on the fact that power comes with organized money, right? Okay. So, and organized money on its own is not good or bad. We happen to love having organized money at Together West Michigan and want to raise more of it to build more relational power and more leadership. We spend our budget on mainly three things: a professionally trained organizer, whose job it is to do the second thing, training and developing you, our members. You are the organization. And third, the support of our national network, who helps us constantly learn how to do our work better. Now we say whoever pays the piper picks the tune, or whoever's paying for the organization owns it. Now, would you rather have members own Together West Michigan or somebody else?
Member.
Who was that?
Member.
Me too! So right now, 25% of our budget comes from our member dues and contributions, and we call that hard money, 25%. That means that 75% of our budget is coming from somebody else, mostly foundations. We call that soft money. And that's working for now because our priorities are pretty aligned, but that will not always be, that may not always be the case, and it won't last forever. So our goal this year is to move from a budget that's 25% hard money to 35%, and that means raising an additional $22,000 in hard money. That means we're going to need more organized people, more member institutions, and more organized people and money. And to help us do it, we have planned a broad-based organizing training on April 12th and 13th next month, where we will cover basic habits and practices of organizing and help you build strong plans for getting those pledges for child care voters. And we're bringing in a couple of our best trainers from across the country to help us do it. So, power. Say it with me. Power. The ability to act. 6 new member institutions. 5,500. Say 5,500. Voter pledges, child care voter pledges. 50 people at a training and $22,000. You think we can do that?
Yes.
Say it with more confidence. So you can do that. So at the back on your way out, you'll find these. And I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Megan Cottrell, to help give us a little bit more inspiration about why we might want to actually make good on these commitments. Megan.
Hi guys, my name is Megan Cottrell and I'm a proud member of Together West Michigan through Park Congregational Church. Friends, we live in a county where many of our representatives are not used to hearing from the people. They like to cut ribbons and bang gavels and have you check the box next to their name come November, but some of them don't actually want to hear what you need. They don't want to have their decisions questioned or their priorities adjusted. We learned this in our work on both affordable housing and childcare. After working with the county for over a year to get a modest increase in the Ready by 5 millage on the ballot in order to support childcare, we learned that the majority of commissioners weren't going to support it. Why? Because they only wanted to put one tax increase on the ballot this year, and their priority was a lodging tax to help build a new amphitheater and a soccer stadium downtown. At the last county commission meeting, I was warned that mentioning the lodging tax might upset some of the commissioners. They would feel threatened and embarrassed. But after a year of working with them nicely and getting nothing accomplished, we were there to say what needed to be said. We need to put the interests of families and children over the interests of rich people. A new soccer stadium and new amphitheater will bring more traffic, more congestion, put more pressure on an already terrible housing market, bring more new families without enough people to care for their children. And all of the taxes that it would generate, they all stay downtown, building bigger flower boxes and pay for billboards to bring in more tourists. Not a dime goes to our schools, our roads, our water systems, our communities. Last week we got a warning from a county official. Don't come out against the lodging tax. We won't work with you if you do. But do you know what that means, guys? They're afraid of us. They know that when people come together, when we start sharing our stories, when we organize and collaborate, we have power. And they've forgotten the essential thing. They are there to represent us, our interests. They govern with the consent of the governed, and if we take our consent away, if we say no to shiny new projects that don't serve the needs of community, they'll have to listen to us. We are asking you to gather people to commit to vote come November. Why? Because when we ask people to vote, we invite them into the sacred conversation of who we want to be as a community. We're not just asking them to check a box. We're asking them to step boldly into their role as a citizen, to start telling their stories, to ask questions, and to learn how their government works. It is hard work, and we are not used to it. We're used to feeling powerless, apathetic, cynical. But if we want those dreams to become a reality, we have to take our power back and let our county government know that they do have to listen. To remind them that they represent us, all of us, and not just the interests of a few. So when you think about the number of cards you want to get signed, think of a person behind each one. Each one of those cards is a conversation that you have with your neighbor, inviting them to take back their power as a citizen and work to make their dreams happen. If the county is threatened by 150 people showing up to a meeting, how are they going to respond when 5,500 citizens start asking questions and demanding to be heard? Every institution that we bring in represents a bigger network of people who feel connected and empowered to act. And that's the beginning of a dream that we can fight for together. Thank you.
See why we give her a microphone every chance we get. Right? Thank you, Megan. Oh my gosh. This is the best elementary school assembly I've ever been to. So good. All right, y'all ready to build some relational power?
Yes.
Are you ready to build some relational power? Yes. Are you ready to build some money power? Yes. Well, we're gonna see. We're gonna make this happen. So, we're going to break into our caucuses. We're going to break into our groups by our institutions. At each one of our caucuses and our groups, we're going to be sharing our 3 commitments. Our commitments of how many